Welcome, WagerTalk TV, WagerTalk News, everything WagerTalk. I'm Tony Finn, host of the program that you've tuned in to see, which is Faded with Finn. Makes sense, right? Tony Finn doing a Faded with Finn. What a shocker. Again, last week, guys, those who visit frequently have followed most of the 2022 season, 23 part this year because of the extended schedule and et cetera, et cetera. We're going to be going into the new calendar year, but we were again 1-1 last week. We faded, if you remember, we faded both Tampa Bay um, franchises, Tampa Bay, or we faded the Bay franchises, says a Tampa Bay and Green Bay. We were right on Green Bay. They got pummeled. They lost again, and those Packer fans are out there. My condolences. I'm certain that at some point in time in your life, unless you're 20 and you've been privileged to have nothing but Aaron Rodgers, there's been times when all of us and the teams that we grew up around and listening to, some of us loving. It hasn't been a very good year for Green Bay. Tampa Bay, pretty much the same thing. Although Tampa Bay found a way to out ugly the LA Rams last week, which surprised me. I quit watching that game, guys, when it probably was the mid to third quarter. I said I'll finish watching this an edited version, at the end. And when I flipped back to it to see the score and saw that Brady had manufactured enough points and scored with 5 seconds, that they kind of spoiled our 2-0. And we haven't had a 2-0 really since week one, I believe that was the case. But so this week there's probably 10 or 15 teams I would like to fade. But unfortunately, as I mentioned to producer Chris Allen, the teams I want to fade are playing a team I'd like to fade. So we're going to do two teams today, as we always do. We're going to start with fading the Denver Broncos, and in the second version, we're going to fade the LA Rams. But the Broncos first. Tennessee is where Denver will be in Nashville to play the Titans, and the Titans are coming off a lot of people disagree with me. I've spoke to a lot of pundits and coworkers, peers, people that I respect, and they say, listen, that Titans Chiefs game was brutal. It was a physical game that they ended up losing, hangover. That's not the type of team that Tennessee is. It isn't the type of coaching staff that they have. And this is a team that's always going to be consistently pedestrian because they don't have a quarterback. Should I say they don't have a receiver to stretch the field? As we all know, A.J. Brown no longer, which was a crazy trade. I thought it was a crazy trade, but give them credit. They lead the division. They continue to play hard. They continue to cover, as they did last week against the Chiefs, albeit in a loss. But this game opened with Tennessee only being a 1.5-point favorite against a Denver team that has been offensively challenged. I won't get into this too much other than this Tennessee team does what they do well counters what the Broncos have to do just to be competitive. Let's flash back to some of the offensive woes. If you remember when the Russell Wilson-led Broncos were playing San Francisco, for instance, they punted 10 times against a good defense. Not that Tennessee Titans are the defense that the San Francisco 49ers are. However, this is what it's going to be. This is the kind of game it's going to be. I would be very surprised if either one of these teams scored 20 points. I think if Tennessee scores 20, they're going to cover this game easily. And that said, the Broncos averaging right around 14 points a game. There's been situations where I made a few side bets. For instance, when they played the Raiders, I said if the Broncos still score 20 points, they have no business even being an NFL team. Well, they ended up scoring 23. They still lost. So to the point here, the Broncos are dysfunctional in every aspect offensively. I think that Hackett is doing things they're trying to be a team that they cannot be. Something that Hackett was and coached for years and years with Aaron Rodgers, who we've talked about already. They really need Russell Wilson to be more of a freelancer in this offense and make decisions on the snap, in play, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see how this Broncos team can go into Tennessee, into Nashville, and score 20 points, as I mentioned. And what will happen is that you're going to have a big discrepancy, time of possession. Tennessee will be at 38 to 40 minutes to Broncos 20 to 25. and they're going to, as good as the Broncos have been against the run. Listen, they're second defensively only to the Niners this year in the overall weighted and adjusted picture. The Broncos are going to be a fade for us. The first fade of this week 10, the Broncos are fade. Tennessee should win by 6, 7, or more. And as always, we're going to go right into the second fade rather than have a break so I can, have a beer and a tobacco. But it won't let me do this. So we're going to go right into the second fade, and that being the Rams, as I mentioned. And in short, the Rams are an absolute mess. The fact that they lost last weekend, and I should say, losing to Brady it's hard to find it's hard to find a lot of butt slaps to give this Rams team the way they played last week, but it's also very difficult to be too critical of a team that goes on the road and plays Brady. Brady finds a way to win. He hasn't done that a lot this year, but he did last weekend, and it was good enough to get them a big win. And if you saw him after the game, it was almost like Brady had won a Super Bowl. If you saw it, that was awesome. It was funny, yet he was serious about that. The Rams offense really runs through Cooper Kupp. What we have this weekend is during this week, Matthew Stafford is now in protocol. He didn't practice today. And when we do this taping, this is a Thursday. He didn't practice Wednesday. They said he did some walkthroughs, but I will be very surprised from what I understand, what I heard, and the sources I have with the LA Times, for instance, if he plays because of the things he's doing or done and answered questions since Sunday's game. Even up to Tuesday, they were very concerned. In fact, they didn't even put him in the protocol until Tuesday, and they felt like they had to for his own safety because of some of the things, the way he was talking, the way he was acting, etc., were symptoms of somebody who had been concussed. Cooper Kupp cannot be gone through without Stafford. The running back situation, the backfield in the Rams, it's a mess. If there's fantasy guys out there, you have to be like just almost despondent that they haven't used Akers or Akers wanted a trade. Darrell Henderson is a good complimentary back, but he's not a guy that you're going to depend on to get more than 60 yards, maybe a couple catches. And defensively, this team is still capable, the Rams, but offensively, they can't block. They can't run block. They can't pass block. One of the reasons that they have that right now Stafford has a problem is that he's been routinely examined by the Rams week in and week out. 28 sacks this season, which ranks third if I'm not mistaken, in the league. And his absence from this Rams team is detrimental to the Rams offense, which has scored only 20 points in 4 of the past 5 games, guys. Stafford has yet to, and for fantasy owners too, I want to mention this because not that I do a lot of fantasy, but I do give a lot of fantasy advice, and friends of mine in the neighborhood and in the industry, in a standard league, he hasn't even scored 20 points in a fantasy game, which is, I think he's averaging just under 12, which is crazy, which speaks to how he's played in reality, should I say. So a start by John Wolford, who actually performed admirably when he's been asked to as a quarterback for the Rams, is not a good fit for an Arizona team who picked up the pace, albeit in a loss to Seattle last week. They're better than this team. Kyler Murray will look average, but he'll get his ground. He will get his yards on the ground. And this Rams team is much like I spoke to the Green Bay Packers last week. They're not a playoff team. They're not a playoff team, and right now they won't be a playoff team. I'll be surprised San Francisco wins this division, probably going away. In fact, if the San Francisco team stays healthy, they would be, in my opinion, the favorite in the NFC over the Philadelphia or Dallas in this case. I'm Tony Finn. You've been listening to Faded with Finn. I hope I didn't go on too long. We're going to have a 2-0 week, so I'll visit the message board again and answer all the beautiful things that you guys usually say about me, and I'll try to be nice about it. So enjoy the weekend of sports, football, basketball, college basketball, NBA, and the NBA. And the NFL, excuse me. Again, I'm Tony Finn. See you next week.